Another day, another draft set. And we're starting the season off, week 1, with an interesting one. The Halifax Masquerade Men are taking on the H-Town Jigglypuffs, coached by Shadow, and many other names. The commissioner of this league, he'd be the first to tell you that all of the staff have done a lot to keep this league rolling season after season, but it's thanks to him that we're here playing this at all. So credit to Shadow for that, but I hope he starts off his season with a loss. The Jigglypuffs have a roster of Walking Wake, Bronzong, Wo-Chien, Gastrodon, Muck, Rhydon, Alolan Vulpix, Infernape, Snom, Magnezone, and Impidimp. A lot of interesting Pokemon here, but it's honestly not that obvious to me what Shadow's strategy is overall for this draft or for this matchup. There are a few possible manual weather setups. Well, not manual in the case of Alolan Vulpix. It gets snow warning. And, I don't know, can set up Aurora Veil with that, I guess. But he also has ways to get manual rain and sun, and Walking Wake, of course, benefits from both. Otherwise, of course, the main thing that jumps out at me is the possible Trick Room mode. Bronzong is a good Trick Room setter, and he has a lot of slow Pokemon, notably Rhydon, Wo-Chien. Muck is slow and has a better attack stat than you might think, and of course Magnezone. He's got some disruptive options as well. Infernape is fast. It can attack on either side. It gets Fake Out. I think it might get Faint. I'm not sure. Impidimp doesn't have all of the Prankster options that Grimmsnarl has, but it has some. And of course, a big thing that stands out to me in this matchup, other than the Walking Wake Iron Leaves showdown in week 1, by the way. A big thing that stands out to me in this matchup is that my team has a lot of physical offense, and Wo-Chien is a significant obstacle to that. So that's something that I was thinking about right off the bat when I started prepping for this matchup. How to deal with the Wo-Chien so that my physical attackers can hopefully succeed. And, I don't know, I had a lot of options to attack this matchup, but nothing that seems super compelling to me. I didn't really see an obvious way to do it. But I knew right away, largely because of the Wo-Chien threat, that the Pokemon I most wanted to bring was Sylveon. Sylveon, of course, is one of my few special attackers, and it also, at least before Wo-Chien terrestrializes, can hit it hard with fairy attacks. To that end, we've got a Throat Spray set with Pixelate, Calm Mind, Hyper Voice, Terror Blast, and Detect. Calm Mind, honestly, is kind of thrown in. I don't know if it's the best move for this matchup, and maybe I'll even change it and re-record this, and you won't know because I won't release this version. We'll see. But I feel like I have the coverage I need with Hyper Voice and Terra Blast. I will note that as we go through the team, you'll see that there's a lot of competition for the Terra slot, and I have Terra Blast on multiple Pokemon, so that's something that I'll have to keep in mind as I play through the matchups. But I think Sylveon is mostly here to fire off Hyper Voice. I just have to be mindful of the 2 Steel types and the Poison type and the Wo-Chien that might terrestrialize into a Fairy Resist, because Sylveon is kind of an obvious thing that I have to throw at it. All of that said, yeah, throwing off strong Hyper Voices into this team seems pretty useful to making sure that my other attackers can thrive. I thought about Terra Fire on Sylveon. Terra Fire, Terra Blast would of course be very strong into the 2 Steel types, but as well as some other things like Wo-Chien and the Ice types. But you're going to see as I get further into this that I'm running Rain this week, and so the anti-synergy with Terra Fire seemed not ideal to me. Terra Water, on the other hand, gives Sylveon solid defensive coverage, of course resisting Steel, and well, at least taking away the Poison weakness. It's a good defensive type for Sylveon, if not as good as Fire. Probably comparable to Fire. And the Terra Blast is not super effective into the Steel types, and in fact it's resisted by Wo-Chien before Wo-Chien terrestrializes, but I have Hyper Voice for that. And in Rain, Terra Water, Terra Blast should still get off strong hits into things. For a while when I was prepping, I thought that Bronzong might have Wide Guard, but I looked it up and it doesn't, so I had Moonblast on this set briefly, but I don't think I'm going to need it. In the EVs, the thing is that most of Shadow's team is not very fast. And the things that are fast, well, so for some of my Pokemon I didn't worry that much about the speed stat. That's where I'm going with this. So Sylveon is mostly invested in bulk. The 68 defense EVs just help to cover for like a really aggressive Infernape set or something like that. And I ran a few calcs with 196 special attack versus max special attack. I didn't run a ton of calcs, but in the ones I ran at least, I didn't see a significant difference there, especially since the throat spray, it's a big buff after one hyper voice anyway. So next we have our S+ Pokemon Thundurus. I've built this one like a bulky Tornadus like you'd see in VGC. So it's got the Covert Cloak to deal with Fake Out from Infernape, and it's got the Steel Terra type to help it take a hit as needed. Like I said, I think there's a lot of competition for the Terra slot this week, so Terrasolizing Thundurus is not top of mind, but I do have this as an emergency button if I need it, and I just have a bulky set that's calced to take the major hits from threats like Walking Wake and Infernape. So I have Rain Dance to set up Rain. This can disrupt any snow or even manual sun strat that Shadow might bring. Scary Face 1 is my main form of speed control this matchup. My Pokemon are largely on average faster than his, but I don't have, I don't think I've brought anything. I brought one thing this week that competes with Walking Wake and Infernape speed-wise, but they mostly outspeed my team, so getting off a Scary Face into one of those guys could be clutch. On the other hand, another thing that I'm thinking about is if Shadow runs Trick Room, there may be a situation where I want a Scary Face into my own teammate. But we'll see whether that makes sense as the situation arises. That said, I'd rather prevent Trick Room if it comes up, so I have Taunt on Thundurus, and I have Wild Bolt Storm for an attack. I haven't invested in Special Attack, of course, but Wild Bolt Storm can hopefully pick up some chip damage, especially in rain, maybe get some paras. I said in the preview video that Thundurus is going to have a bad case of 4 move slot syndrome throughout the season, and already that's starting to be the case here. This slot where I have Taunt, I considered Protect, and I considered Flying Terra Blast, which gets off a super effective hit into Wo-Chien, which of course resists Wild Bolt Storm, but I decided that I was more comfortable with Taunt considering the threat of the Trick Room mode. Next up we have Iron Leaves. Iron Leaves is maybe the least inspired pick this week. It doesn't feel like an amazing Iron Leaves matchup, and of course I haven't brought Electric Terrain. Iron Leaves could set its own Electric Terrain, but I haven't brought that either, unless, again, I change my mind about one of the moves. But it's just here to be an all-around strong attacker. The booster energy will boost its attack stat, because I don't think it needs the speed boost in this matchup. Iron Leaves is naturally slower than Infernape and Walking Wake. Of course, with the speed boost, it could outrun at least Infernape, but Walking Wake could have its own speed boost. I decided that I'd rather rely on the bulk of the rest of my team or timely Scary Face to deal with that, and so I'd rather get the boost to attack, especially since I don't have Electric Terrain to boost Psyblade. That said, it is EV'd to outspeed Modest Walking Wake or Adamant Infernape, assuming that they don't have a speed boost. Otherwise, max attack and just general all-around bulk. Leaf Blade, Psyblade, and Sacred Sword is pretty solid coverage into Shadow's team. Leaf Blade is good for picking up things like Gastrodon and Rhydon. Psyblade is my best option into Muck, and Sacred Sword rounds out the coverage. And again, I thought a lot about the last move slot. Iron Leaves doesn't have the greatest support move pool, but it actually is a really interesting one. There are a lot of really cool moves that I could have brought here that I maybe won't talk about now because maybe I'll bring them some other week. In general, I feel like I could have brought more heat than I did this week, but I'm kind of just settling in and getting comfortable with my team here, so maybe I'll save that heat for some other matchup. But I even could have brought Swords Dance here. I think Iron Leaves gets Swords Dance. It'd be weird if it didn't. But I decided to just play it safe with Protect, at least for this matchup. We'll see how I feel in later matchups going forward. Next up, we have Magmar. Oh, and Water is just a defensive Terra type. Kind of leaked another Pokemon slot there, I realized, but we'll just keep going. Magmar with Terra Grass covers its weaknesses nicely in this matchup. And the rest of the set is pretty self-explanatory. Eviolite, Flame Body, Follow Me, Helping Hand. It's just here to enable its teammates, maybe help Sylveon get up off a stronger Hyper Voice, or use Follow Me to redirect a hit away from Sylveon so Sylveon gets another chance to attack, or Iron Leaves does. Not all of my offensive calcs are amazing this week, especially since I've run a lot of bulk on some of my Pokemon, so Helping Hand could be clutch in some situations, but also getting off the extra attack with Follow Me, of course. I wasn't sure how I felt about 2 Taunt users this week, even though I am kind of worried about the Trick Room, but I think it is good to cover my bases like that, and the important thing here is that Magmar, of course, has a non-Prankster taunt, which means that Terra Dark Bronzong can't avoid it just by terastallizing. It can shut down something like a Leech Seed Wo-Chen, and then Heat Wave just to get off some damage. Again, I don't think Shadow has Wide Guard. Maybe Snom gets Wide Guard. I wouldn't bet on it. I know Frostmoth does, but Snom doesn't have wings to extend. But he's probably not bringing Snom anyway. And the EVs, I couldn't tell you what I specifically calced right now, but again, I ran a bunch of calcs for a bunch of my Pokemon against heavy hits from things like Walking Wake, Infernape, Rhydon, sometimes Magnezone. And I guess this EV spread covered what I wanted it to. Next, of course, as I've already leaked, we have Mismagius, running a Choice Specs set. Shadow doesn't have a lot that wants to take a Ghost type attack. That's kind of the nature of the Ghost type these days. I think most teams are not going to have much that wants to take that. He has 2 Ghost Resists off the top of my head, and those are Wo-Chen and Impidimp. Wo-Chen is a real threat. Impidimp, maybe not as much. Not that I'm taking Impidimp lightly in this matchup, but it still probably doesn't want to take a Specs Shadow Ball. So that's right off the bat, the main idea with Mismagius. Mismagius, of course, is my other strong special attacker, so considering the Wo-Chen's potential to nerf all of my physical attackers, I thought it made sense to bring both this and Sylveon this week. Cannot seem to stop leaking. Well, new format. Getting used to it, right? Fighting Terra Blast is a little... Considering the choice specs that I'd be locked into whatever attack I use, fighting is a little more spammable than Fairy into Shadow's team. So if I get an opening where it makes sense, fighting Terra Blast is easier to rely on. That said, I do also have Dazzling Gleam for situations where I don't want to terastallize Mismagius, but I do have the coverage. And finally, Shadow has a lot of support Pokemon that won't appreciate having a choice specs tricked onto them. So if I get this onto Wo-Chen or Impidimp or Alolan Vulpix or probably Muck, yeah, any of those could pretty easily be disrupted by Trick. So Mismagius' main role is to fire off Specs Shadow Ball or Specs Terra Blast if I think the matchup is right, but Trick could be a very cool tech to help me get set up with a different offensive threat. And finally, I thought a fair bit about what Pokemon I should put in the last slot. I was considering Iron Treads for a while. I was considering Persian. Mainly those two. I don't love Barraskewda in this matchup, but I have gone with Barraskewda. Obviously, it doesn't do a lot into Wo-Chen or Gastrodon. Those are 2 of the biggest possible Barraskewda threats. But I was already thinking about bringing Rain because I wanted to disrupt a possible weather mode that my opponent would bring. And so... You know, maybe Barraskewda is the Pokemon I'm least likely to bring to a game. I don't know. We'll see. But I have the option, if at preview or in a game situation I think it makes sense, to go for that big liquidation or that big flip turn. Terra Fairy, Terra Blast, of course, picks up a big hit into Walking Wake, and although it's nerfed by Tablets of Ruin, it's also super effective into Wo-Chen, assuming neither has terastallized. I didn't feel like more coverage than that was more important than Protect. Maybe that will make Barraskewda set a little awkward, but I think Liquidation, Fairy, Terra Blast, if I really go for a Barraskewda mode, which again I think is relatively unlikely, but I have the option if I want to, ought to be enough in combination with the likes of Sylveon and Iron Leaves and Mismagius. I don't know, there's not really a set game plan for this matchup like there sometimes has been in the past. We'll see what Shadow brings and we'll play it by ear, but I think I have a lot of sort of solid, well-rounded pieces into his team that if I can find the right combination in-game, things should go pretty well. And like I said, this is kind of a more basic feeling out my team kind of build. This team, as I dig deeper into it in the builder, has a lot of possible heat that I can bring in later matchups, and a lot of really interesting moves on a lot of these Pokemon. But this is it. This is the team for Week 1. So... that's it. I'll be back with the battle as soon as it's time to record that. See you then. Alright, it's time. Week 1. Let's go. Wonder what he's brought. Let's see. Oh, here we go. We got Walking Wake, Bronzong, Magnezone, Rhydon. Did bring Vulpix. And Infernape. Did I not challenge? Hang on, did I not challenge to a best of 3? Okay. Well, I guess we'll just go ahead and get the other games open. Oh, is there no... There is. I think I did challenge to best of 3. How does it... Did they change how it works in challenges? Well... Oh, maybe I just didn't tick this box. Did I miss ticking that box? Alright. Guess we'll just use this one. Okay. Well, here we finally are. Can't tick a box, but maybe I can win some battles. Okay. Could have Trick Room. Definitely has Snow, because why else would you bring Vulpix? The Rhydon suggests Trick Room to me as well. And maybe the Magnezone. I don't know what I want to do. I think I want to just feel this out with like a Thunderous Iron Leaves lead. Didn't bring the Wo-Chien, which is the guy I thought the most about in prep. So that's interesting. I don't like Sylveon as much anymore, although Sylveon, well, especially with the 2 Steel types. Don't love Magmar either. I think I definitely bring this Magus. A lot of strong neutral matchups, and not really any obvious weakness other than playing in Trick Room. Do I bring Magmar? It's obviously not good into Walking Wake or Rhydon. I'm gonna bring Barrascuda to game 1, and we'll adjust if it goes badly. Okay, Bronzong Magnezone lead. I feel pretty good about just taunting the Bronzong. We'll see if there's a Mental Herb, and I'll go for a Sacred Sword into the Magnezone, I guess. No Wo-Chien. He's definitely gonna watch the Teambuilder part and hear how much I talked about Wo-Chien. And maybe he'll leave a comment telling me a little bit about his thought process. I hope so. Okay, no Mental Herb on the Bronzong. Big damage into the Magnezone. Electro Web. Maybe it's not Trick Room stuff. It's Life Orb Magnezone. Iron Defense Bronzong. Okay. Interesting. I kind of want to go for a Rain Dance so that I get accurate Wild Bolt Storms. I don't know if that's the best use of my time right now. And of course it buffs the Walking Wake. I'm actually just going to throw off a Wild Bolt Storm now. Not so much because I'm afraid of the Walking Wake, more because the Vulpix can come in and ruin my day, and I think getting the damage off Lightning Rod Rhydon, I like that here. Maybe not in this specific moment. I'm going to get the full para, that's unfortunate for my opponent. What am I going to do? I think I'm going to Rain Dance here. It can set up for Barrascuda if something weird happens. I'm going to go for a Leaf Blade into the Rhydon. I think it must Terrastalize in this position, right? And I don't know what its Terra type is. Maybe I should read the Terra Poison or something and go for Psyblade. I'm just going to go for Leaf Blade. We'll play it simple, game 1. We do just pick up the Rhydon. It doesn't Terrastalize. The Body Press is not doing much to Thunderous. I have my Rain Dance up yet. Don't know what his last Pokemon is still. Could be the Walking Wake. It is the Walking Wake. It has Special Attack Booster. I'm gonna Wild Bolt Storm and Protect Iron Leaves this turn. I was thinking about getting off a Scary Face. Oh, the taunt is worn off on the Bronzong. I'm still gonna make this play. I was thinking about getting off a Scary Face into the Walking Wake, but I still have a few turns of rain left. If Thunderous goes down here, I can... Okay, it goes for Flamethrower into Iron Leaves. I was going to say I can get Barraskewda in for free. I don't feel like I need to taunt the Bronzong at this point. It's going for Iron Defense Body Press. I think I can handle that pretty well with my Pokemon in the back, so I'm just going to keep going for Wild Bolt Storm. No, hold on. The Walking Wake is probably faster at this point. I'm going to Scary Face the Walking Wake and go for a Leaf Blade into it as it protects, so a bit of a dead turn there for me. Bronzong goes for Ice Spinner into Iron Leaves. That's interesting, but it does less than half. And I feel pretty safe to just make the same play again. He doesn't really have an answer to it other than a double protect, and even then, Ice Spinner should still not KO Iron Leaves. Terra Steel Walking Wake. So that is an answer to my Leaf Blade. Still does good damage. And will he get rid of the Iron Leaves this turn? No, he goes for the Ice Spinner into Thundurus. I think I want to preserve Thundurus at this point, because I'm about to run out of rain. I could Terra Thundurus, it doesn't really feel worthwhile. I think I'm gonna hard switch to Barraskewda in anticipation. No, I'll protect Iron Leaves. I was thinking about letting Iron Leaves go down this turn, but I don't really see much that I gain from that, other than getting Thundurus back in for free. But Barraskewda is so fast anyway, I don't think I'm worried about that. And now I can just throw off a Liquidation into Walking Wake. And I guess... that'll also KO Magnezone if it switches in, so I guess I'll chip Bronzong with Sacred Sword. Walking Wake goes down. Pretty good chip on Bronzong. Another full para. Unfortunate, but that's the game. And I think I can pretty safely Liquidation Bronzong. Actually, I'm going to protect Barraskewda just in case he does anything weird. I'll Sacred Sword the Magnezone to try to pick up that KO. Yeah, we got the Magnezone, and the Bronzong is not... I mean, it can try to set up. It is trying to set up. But it's not going to be able to handle all of my offense from here. Liquidation still does pretty good damage after the Iron Defense and gets the drop. But Sacred Sword isn't worried about Iron Defense anyway. Another full para is pretty rough for my opponent, but it's already a lost position, so I don't think I can really feel bad about that one. And that's GG on game 1. A little unfortunate about the full paras. Again, not so much that last one, but the other, I think, 2 are kind of rough. But, we move on. I don't know what he'll do differently this game. The Infernape might be tempting, given that he was trying to get off fire attacks into my Iron Leaves. Maybe he brings the Vulpix for weather control, but I don't really know why he brought Vulpix at all. I am just going to lead the same 2 guys. I think I'm just going to bring the same 4 Pokemon. I mean, he didn't have an answer to it in game 1, and I don't like Sylveon or Magmar as much into what he's been bringing so far. He does make an adjustment with the Walking Wake in the lead spot. I'm going to Rain Dance, even though it buffs water attacks. Actually, I'm going to taunt the Bronzong this turn, protect Iron Leaves, and then I'll Rain Dance next turn. Just don't want the Bronzong to set up and potentially... I'm not that afraid of the Bronzong set, but if it does get its setup going, it can potentially try to run away with something. I was also trying to check for a Terra on the Walking Wake. Look at this, by the way. Iron Leaves Walking Wake head-to-head right out of the gate. They start off protecting, and here I can Rain Dance I don't need to terrestrialize Iron Leaves because the rain covers the fire weakness anyway. I guess I'll Sacred Sword the Walking Wake. He might want to Terra it again. I feel like I don't lose a lot if he doesn't. Beefy Dragon Pulse, but that does less than half to Thunderous. Just goes right for the body press into Iron Leaves. That doesn't do much either. If I Terra Iron Leaves, I do then have the Ice Spinner resistance, but I don't think I'm worried about that right now, as I think I can just go for Wild Bolt Storm and another Sacred Sword into Walking Wake. Maybe should have read the Protect there, but again, I don't really know what it gains him. I guess it burns a turn of Taunt. If we paralyze the Bronzong again, does get the Ice Spinner hit. And actually, I don't know how well Iron Leaves takes an attack from Walking Wake at this point. I'm not going to read the Terra this time, because I think his play is to outspeed and KO. So I'm going to Scary Face and Leaf Blade this turn. If he does Terra here, that's a big play from him, but instead he switches to Ride On, and that's just going to get knocked out. So that's a big plus. Very strong start to game 2. He does bring the Infernape. It could have Fake Out, and it should be faster than Iron Leaves. I'm going to Wild Bolt... Yeah, I'm not worried about the Bronzong at this point. I'm going to Wild Bolt Storm and Protect Iron Leaves. If he fakes out into Thunderous, of course I have the Covert Cloak, but he just goes for Protect. Wild Bolt Storm chips Bronzong a little bit. I could Terra Water here, but it still doesn't exactly feel important. I think I can just Scary Face and Psyblade. Could be Sash Infernape, but it's not going to like all this damage either way. Iron Leaves is putting in a decent amount of work without even any electric terrain, so... And it's not Sash Infernape. So that's a very good debut for this pick here. And for, like I said, in the draft video, a cool Pokemon that I've not really had occasion to use before. Do I want Rain here? I think I do, because Barraskewda can go in once Iron Leaves goes down. So I think I Rain Dance and Protect. He might Protect the Walking Wake, or he can show me his Terra. Yeah. The Bronzong does start to set up, but once again, I think it's too little too late, as we can Scary Face and Sacred Sword into the Walking Wake that just protected. He gets the double Protect, so he can knock out Iron Leaves here. But he hits Thunderous instead for not that much damage. I can just make the same play again. It feels pretty safe. Almost click Psyblade instead of Sacred Sword. That would not have been as safe. But yeah, I think I just have him pinned here. Walking Wake goes down, and it's Bronzong against the world again. It does get a second Iron Defense. That's not nothing, but I can just start chipping it. We'll just go for Wild Bolt Storm and Sacred Sword here. Sacred Sword ignores the defense boosts and does a lot of damage. Wild Bolt Storm also ignores the defense boost because it's a special attack. And Thunderous, bulky Thunderous takes another body press. And I don't even have to show my Pokemon in the back. I never showed Mismagius the whole set. I mean, unless this doesn't... yeah, well, it doesn't go sideways, so you'll find out when I post the stats what I had in the back. But that's week 1. Pretty strong start to the season, a lot better than last time. I'm liking this team quite a bit already. Oh yeah, Special Attack. If you don't know, Special Attack takes priority over Speed with Booster Energy. I think it just goes down the list of stats in order. But that's it. I'm really feeling good about this team so far. I mean, this was a relatively straightforward build and relatively straightforward game plans, and it worked out very nicely. There's still a lot of untapped potential to bring to later weeks, but we start on a strong note. and hopefully we'll be back strong next week. Bye-bye, a go-go.